Hey Ricky, what's going on, dude?
Oh, not much. Just getting through day by day. It's been a pretty wild week, pretty busy. And then the other day, or what was it, yesterday morning, woke up, Susan said there's like a funny sound coming from underneath the stairs, and the pressure tank from our well pump sprung a leak.
Oh,
So we had water spray all over underneath in the storage area, and we have all these. So this is what's crazy. We have all these bins, right? Like Rubbermaid bins with stuff in it. So you're like, okay, everything's protected. One bin had like all of Susan's photos in it from like her entire life, and somehow the water was getting in there, and there was like 3 inches of standing water in the bottom of that. That was
no.
the only container that had water in it. It's like, oh my gosh, you
Oh,
gotta be kidding me. So we're like spreading photos out all over the house, which was kind of cool because we were like looking through all these memories, and
yeah.
pictures that I haven't had an opportunity to look at from her family. So that was kind of a little bit of a blessing in disguise. But aside from that, things are cranking along, man. How are you?
Well, I'm doing pretty good, I was a bachelor all last week and that was fun. Um, just got to come home and do what you do, you know what I mean? And no, I didn't do that. I got baseball players here, so I didn't want to look stupid. Yes, but yeah, I got to go. I went on a Crow Peak Mountain party on Saturday night. Went looking for elk yesterday, and I found some, and just got to enjoy life. And now Cindy's back, and it's good, I mean, it's good to be apart, but it's good to be back together. And then I got to edit the episode we're going to talk about right now, Jeff Helm, and you know, this episode struck me more than I thought it would. We'll just say. I I it just hit me hard and we got to talk and I like getting deep. I mean, when I told people in that little video on Instagram that we talked a little bit about peaks and a little bit about elk hunting and a lot of bit about life. And that's where I wanted to go with Jeff because we have these conversations different places when I get to see him and it was just I thought this would be everybody talks to him about elk hunting. He shoots a lot of elk and he's and then peaks and stuff. But I wanted people to get to know the Jeff Helms behind all that other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really, really great conversation. I guess I've probably known Jeff for maybe a decade or so, just from TAC and everything. But we're more acquaintances. It's very surface. We see each other at TAC, and he shoots some of our products, and so we have some business dealings and things like that. We'll chat a little bit, but we've never gotten real deep into a conversation. We've never had the opportunity, and so it was really cool to get to know him on a really deep level, and that's what I love about podcasts because unfortunately I couldn't be there as much as I wanted to, but even just being able to go back and listen to that episode, I know him so much better now, and uh, there's that there's always everybody's got a story, right? There's something going on there, but again, it's just hard to find the time to really get deep into that. And part of the conversations like you guys were having was, those people that you keep in your circle that will show up for you, and we all have those. And then you kind of, there's certain people that it's just too hard to bring them into the circle, right? Because you got to make sure that you're focusing on the main people that are there, right? So
Yeah.
but I thought it was really cool, and I feel like the next conversation that I have with them, I feel like we'll be better friends just listening to the podcast.
Well, that's very cool because after that conversation, I posted a couple days later because it did get me thinking about that stuff. And it was, everybody talks about their 3 a.m. friend.
Yeah,
But the question that kept on rolling around in my head was, but am I a 3 a.m. friend? Am I that friend to people? Would they want to call me kind of thing? Now, I know I am too, but who trusts to call you? And then it's just one of those things like, we have to look within ourselves some days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And one thing that really kind of hit me is he made mention of a book that he read called Wild at Heart by, oh gosh, now Eldridge. I'm forgetting his first name, but in any case, I read that book at a like very low time in my life, and it flipped everything around for me. That book did, and it's wild. I've passed it on to a few of my other friends who can attest to the same thing. Maybe it didn't have as a profound effect on their life as it did on me, but I'm sure it put a little bit of a notch in what they had going on at the time, and so that was really cool. And just again, it was an uplifting conversation, right? Because
Yeah.
it's good to hear that. It's not good that people go through hard times, but it's also good to hear that there's other people down there in the trenches with you, sharing in some of the struggles, and then also understanding that those struggles end up, there's a silver lining with all of that. So
Yeah, it's nice to know that everybody gets in that dark tunnel, and it's nice to know that a lot of us have seen the light at the end of the tunnel. So sit back, folks, and I hope you get to enjoy the next episode of the Don't Die Rusty podcast with Jeff Helm. So welcome to the Don't Die Rusty podcast. I'm Rick Hansen, and we will be talking about living, not dying. We're all in this adventure together, and we will be interviewing people who inspire us to live our best lives. People with various backgrounds who will walk us down the trails they took to not die rusty. Adventure in life are many things to many people. It could be a sprint or an endurance race, but with each adventure, we become a better version of us. We hope you keep chasing those dreams, being the best you, and of course, don't die rusty. Well, hello, Don't Die Rusty Nation. Thanks again for listening. And I have tonight, I'm going to introduce him as a friend, and then I'm going to introduce him as the PEAX Community Marketing Manager and Sales Manager. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Maybe not the friend part, you might say, but the rest of the stuff. And this is Jeff Helms. We were trying to get together during all kinds of times, and finally
You
I
got
had to,
sick and
yeah,
all kinds of stuff has popped up. We actually were supposed to link up last fall, and
yeah,
that didn't work out. And you're a busy
no,
boy.
and you are too. I'm happy to get finally caught up with you because I think we have a lot to talk about, and it's going to be a great conversation. I can tell the folks that because we have a lot to talk about.
We do.
But first, I want to get into the PEAX. PEAX. How would you describe PEAX? To me, I'm gonna describe PEAX first, and then you can be more critical of what I say. But I think PEAX is, to me, is helping you enjoy adventures better with the equipment that you create.
I would buy that. PEAX is a company that was created about 5 years ago by a man named Bryce Bishop, who wanted a better outdoor experience. And it started with Sissy Sticks, which rebranded as PEAX Equipment, as more products launched with the headlamp and the gaiters and, then the teepee and the sleeping bag and the titanium stove. And just, the great part about PEAX Equipment is that everything we make isn't a Me Too product. It's not, oh, well, we have that too. Everything addresses issues that you and I have had in the field as guys that spend 30, 60, 90, 120 days out chasing animals. And you find problems with stuff. And Bryce is a problem solver. And so we've addressed a lot of those issues. And I love being the sales manager because whether it's a sleeping bag or a headlamp, I can talk to you about why ours are different and why you should buy it, which makes my life easy.
And you know what's easy for me is is that when you believe in a product, I'm not paid by you guys, but I am saying you have game-changing equipment that you and I are hunters that are out there, like you said, 60, 90 days or adventuring somewhere or whatever, and I don't want to be disappointed or be put in a situation where I don't feel safe. And your equipment has helped me out. And I have a favorite, and it's probably one of the favorites of a lot of people. But the game changing thing is, and everybody thinks that headlamps are all the same, but they are not all the same. And the PEAX headlamp to me is the number one headlamp that you could ever have. And I'm telling you this because besides a headlamp, it's a rechargeable.
Mm-hmm.
And besides being rechargeable, because I would hate a rechargeable headlamp, but you guys have battery, and you can put batteries in it. It's just not rechargeable enclosed that you can't take it apart, because when it starts dying, then it's dead. I can replace the battery I've charged again, so it's an extra battery, and then we can go recharge those batteries. And I have a great experience there. Like, you are out of energy then. If you should be able to get out of your situation mostly with that. And the other thing I like about it is I have the green. They have the white light, and they have a green light or a red light, and I have the green light because I prefer the green. And then 3 settings of each, so bright, medium, and low. And it's an amazing headlamp. And then you can take it off if you need it, because it's interesting in the hunting situation, and you're boning out an animal in the dark sometimes. And sometimes you need to I've taken off my headlamp to shine up when I need, sometimes you can't
Correlate.
see even though it's on your head. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. So that's my favorite piece. I'll tell you that.
That's a good one. It's fantastic. I'm a huge fan.
So, but you know what? We'll get into the friend part now. Is I've known you a long time in the outdoor industry, and we have connected mostly at TACs, because that's the only places we go to see each other because we're busy otherwise. And it's those late night conversations that you have, because during the day we're both busy and doing stuff. But I've got to know you as a person, and yes, we love elk hunting. So we'll get this one out of the way here real quick, because it was fun, because we had the same area tag last year, and like you were saying, we were trying to catch up, and I'm seeing you have luck, and I'm not seeing what I want to see. But the adventures are what it's all about, and the people you're with is what it's all about too. But I was hoping we'd catch up, because I think you're arrogant if you think you know everything.
Right.
And I wanted to catch up with you to learn from you, and because I think if we take bits and pieces from everybody in life, not just hunting, but in life, if we keep on learning, we become a better version of ourselves.
100%. I know, especially when it comes to elk hunting, I've stood on the shoulders of giants, and I've surrounded myself consistently over time with guys that are very successful when it comes to archery, elk hunting, especially. And you glean nuggets when you're with them, and when you're pick up small, I call it the secret sauce,
Yep.
that you're like, oh, that right there, that was part of the secret sauce. Like, that's the good stuff. Because the truth is that, 80% of the elk are killed by 20% of the hunters, and they kill every time. So many guys are successful year after year after year, and those are the guys I listen to. Don't get me wrong, if you elk hunt and you don't ever kill a bull, you're welcome, to talk elk hunting with me. That's great, but I'm probably not going to follow your direction, and I'm just going to give you a hug and wish you luck and go, man, experience is a good teacher.
Yep.
But there's guys like, Dan Evans, and, and there's other people that aren't as well known in my life, like Kiviak and Ryan, my buddy Ryan Coley. And, but there's guys like Ryan Carter, and different ones that are just really consistent. Jason Matzinger, has become a very good friend of mine and consistent in killing. Corey Jacobson. In fact, I'm wearing his shirt right now.
There you go.
Just a lot of people that are consistent. And I'm with you. I love being around guys that are passionate about, elk hunting. And I was shocked, you and I had the same hunt area last year. And when it came down to it and we shared a couple points, I was like, man, I've been in within 300 yards of that spot. I know that spot. I was
I
like,
know.
yeah, all right. Like, this is good. So it's funny
Yeah,
how small a world it is.
it is so funny, and it's funny because like you have to. I don't know what it is. It's like I never ask areas
Yep.
because I think, and I don't care. People have argued this fact on public land or not, but you know what? I worked my ass off to find these areas. Why should I tell you? Because it's not.
Yep.
It wasn't free for me to go do, and I'm not
Yep.
going to tell you. And I don't
Costs a
know
lot of
how
gas these days.
exactly. But if you have gasoline and dreams, you can find a lot of things.
You can. You can. I agree.
But it's funny how you and I got talking, and I don't know, like little things started, and I'm going, and you're going, and you could see our light, like the lights are starting to get brighter, and we're not very far from each other. And and the other thing is though, we have respect for each other. We were going to meet up, but we're not going to cross over into where we were close to where we would be hunting with. But I'm not going to go bother you unless we hooked up somewhere and found,
Yep.
in during the hunt or whatever, and found. But otherwise, it's funny how that came out, and then it's just like now I can talk freely because I know because we trust each other too.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the
Well,
point.
you understand the value. A lot of people, when you're talking information and spots, especially and stuff, like it doesn't take much to burn a spot out. And
Mm-mm.
so when you're with someone that understands the value of those locations and those spots, because the truth is, like, this unit may be huge, but at the end of the day, there's only a small amount of that unit that actually will hold elk. And so
Wow.
when you start shifting and sifting and getting it down, it's not hard to figure out where the elk are. So you gotta, I want to be happy for you when
Mm-hmm.
you call me and say, hey, I got a bull down, and I want you to have done the work and so on and so forth. And I know me. I don't want to second guess me and be like, oh, dang it, man, he took so and so in there or whatever, I want to be like, man, awesome. Congrats, Rick. Do you need help? Like, I'm 7 miles away. I can help you with a pack out, and I did that for a guy this year and helped him pack out a bull. And I want to be happy for all those guys, because if you've got my cell phone number and if we talk elk hunting, you're a friend of mine. And
Yep.
so I want to be happy for all you guys.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because you and I have the same type of friends too. I mean, we have some of the same friends together, but the friends that I was with that were helping me, we all hunt in the same area, but there's only 3 of us. I mean, 2 of us. I mean, 3 together. The lips are zipped. We are the only ones that talk amongst ourselves. We don't like get on the radio broadcast and say this is where we are. Like I said, we were just trying to get together so we can make a little fireside chat here,
Yeah.
but we're together now. But
Yes.
those are I just love talking elk hunting when we are in that season and just enjoy the adventures and the talks that we have. But you know what? Everybody talks to you about elk hunting, and I know why, because you shoot big bulls and you're a successful person too. But I want to know about the real Jeff Helms, and I want to talk about, because here's the other thing that we talk about also at these places, because at the end of the day, I think both of us, somewhat more, probably more you than me, but somebody has talked about elk hunting to us all day long, and it's nice to talk about family, and
Sure.
it's nice to talk about something different in life. So I want to know, what besides elk hunting and other hunting do you do? Like, what else keeps you going?
Well, I mean, that's changed a lot over the years, I guess. I mean, I don't know, Rick, how old are you now? You
I am
young whip.
57 years old.
57. All right. I'm 47, so you got me by a decade. So that means when we met, you were my age. Because it's
That's
been
great.
10 years
I
I
know.
met, maybe 11.
I
And
know.
that's hard to believe, isn't it?
It is.
So over time, things have changed. I mean, I'm sure that you can agree that I feel like, man, it's hard to put into words, but, you know, a lot of people that have kids, I feel like almost have two lifetimes, right? Because when you're growing up, you almost, and everybody's different. Like my brother, one of my closest friends, my brother doesn't have kids, and he's thrown a lot into his work and into different things and travel and so on and so forth. And God just didn't have it in the cards for him to have kids. And they didn't really want to go the route of adoption or whatever. And so he doesn't have kids. Me, on the other hand, I had kids young, so much so that here I am at 47 and I have 3 grandbabies. And, I was married for 21 years to a high school sweetheart. And then that, did not last. And when that happened, that was a huge shakeup for me. It was really a kind of an eye opener on a lot of levels. And then I ended up, I was single for a few years, and through a mutual friend, Ears, we had some connections, and we actually met our wives on the same dating app. And
No.
that's why I got on Plenty of Fish, was because of Ears.
I'll be
And
darned.
yeah, I was 100%. I was up in Minnesota at Ears' house, and I was like, how'd you meet Heather? One thing led to another, and I ended up setting up a profile on Plenty of Fish and met my wife.
Amazing.
It was not a popular dating website. Nobody's ever really heard of it. It's obviously a play on words of Plenty of Fish in the Sea. But that's how I met my wife a couple years later. And, she had 4 kids from a previous marriage. And so we have 6 together, and we have 3 grandkids. So I almost feel like you live a couple lifetimes. You live this lifetime of when you were in junior high and high school, and you're like, oh man, I'm going to go to school, get good grades, get a good job, get married, have a house, all these things. And then all of a sudden, somewhere in your mid 40s to mid 50s, your kids are all gone. And you're like, now what? I'm not dead yet. Like, I love your phrase, don't die rusty. I tell people all the time, listen, I'm going to burn out, not rust out. Okay. So I want to get to the end of my life just spent and just fall in that casket. I do not want to rust out on my way there. So I love that. Don't die rusty. But what makes me tick has changed over the years, because you have these big things that happen in your life that are defining moments, and some are good and some are bad. I owned my own machine shop for 7 or 8 years with a partner, and he and I had a pretty healthy falling out and a difference of opinion. I had started that shop with nobody and had gotten to 21 employees, was doing really well, and him and I came into an impasse, and he bought me out. I took it hard. That was a difficult thing. I'd named that company. I had done everything. He was basically the money behind it. He lived in Michigan. I moved to Texas to start it, and he would come down once a year and check on the business, go pig hunting with me or deer hunting, and then he'd go back home. And it was one of 14 or 15 businesses for him. For me, it was everything. And so when that went south, that was a defining moment. When I moved to Texas was a defining moment, picking up being a Michigan and Indiana boy for most of my life. Almost 20 years ago, I moved to Texas, and that was defining for sure. Changing my vocations a few times. I've always been in manufacturing, but I've also had this alternate lifestyle where I was in the hunting industry, and I've done a lot with Prime, which is how I met you guys, a lot of it.
Yep.
I did a lot with Sitka over the years and Yeti, and ultimately a lot of those connections are how I ended up being full-time in the hunting industry. But, and you and I have talked, losing my marriage was defining. Was I going to choose to be bitter or better? I chose better. And then I lost my brother almost 10 years ago to cancer. And we've talked about that too. And that's another spot where I truly believe nothing changes the heart like grief. And that's a wound that heals, but there's always a scar. But all of those things define and change your path. And so when you ask, what do I do? Brother, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. I love people. I love experiences. If I had a buddy call the other day, go, hey, it's my son's birthday. You want to go golfing with us? You bet. Let's do it. I don't golf much. We had a great time. It was amazing. It was so much fun. I try and go on a fishing trip every year with my son back up to Michigan. It's amazing how your kids open up to you if you spend a lot of concerted time with them and you get them away from their phone and the pullings and trappings of life. I love to camp. I love to be outside. I love vacation. I love Costa Rica and Florida and Argentina and Alaska and Africa and Germany and the Netherlands. I've been all over, and I think variety is the spice of life. So supposed to go to Vermont this year with my wife, supposed to go to Florida this year with my wife and do some stuff. But if you look back over my time, I would say that I fill it full, probably too full at times, but it's the way I thrive. I love spending time with my kids and my grandkids. I love spending time with my wife. I'm married. The Lord blessed me with a woman that is probably better than I deserve. And I still am amazed at how well she loves me and how well she understands who I am. And she's my teammate. I love, this past weekend, we took our 3 and 4-year-old granddaughters and we took our 18-year-old, my youngest stepson, out it was his birthday. And we took them all bowling and had a ton of fun with the little ones. Had dinner, and then Saturday comes around and we're going to the park and we're going swimming at the pool and we're traveling all over the place and doing a lot of Mother's Day stuff. That definitely fills my heart up, spending time with the little ones. But I'm on the go a lot. I don't, you and I, part of the reason why we haven't hooked up is because you'll be like, hey, what about this week? I'm like, not this week, maybe next week. You just have to get it on the calendar. I do some guiding on the side, which is good. I enjoy that. I did a lot of that to help not only open doors here in Texas at Perennial Outfitting, but also to help get my son involved in outfitting. I'm the guy that when my daughter calls and says, hey, something's going on with our roof, I'm over there fixing the roof. It's just, I love a lot of things. I love good food, good people, good fellowship. I love hard. I probably love harder than I ever have in my entire life. I forgive easy. I don't forget. So that doesn't mean that you get off easy, but I don't have any hate in my heart. And it's taken a lot of painful situations to get me to that point, I guess. But I can honestly say I don't have any hate.
I went through divorce too, and we've talked about that. And it's interesting because that's where I think I finally started growing as a person. I looked within myself, and I think when you're young and ambitious, you don't look within yourself, because either things are going right or you're trying to make them go right, so you're never thinking about within yourself. You're just trying to keep moving forward, where sometimes you need to stop, look within yourself and say, I need to be a better person as I move forward,
Yeah.
because
It's hard though to breathe in and breathe out, especially when you're young. I can definitely take ownership for where things went wrong in 21 years. I was not a perfect husband and I was selfish a lot of times. I remember times when I'd play 4 softball leagues. I was coaching 2 of them. I was on the board at church. I was a youth pastor and I was, you know, I wasn't missing walleye opener. I was walleye fishing like crazy and steelhead fishing, whatever season it was, I was all in, brother. Like I had every bag for every season. I was doing everything. And in the end, I didn't water and nurture the relationships around me the way I should because I was too busy about myself. And I didn't see it as that, but I do now, you know?
I do know because I was the same way. I hunt a lot yet, but I can say what you were saying earlier. It's shed season, and I'm out after work, and I am out on weekends. And if you want to see me, you need to come along. I'm playing softball. It was nonstop. If I wasn't shed hunting, I was scouting. If I wasn't, then I'm hunting, and I'm not. I'm trying to do something, and it takes two to tango. But I know that there's not just blame on one side, and I look at within that, and then it's funny because you met your wife on Plenty of Fish, and since I'm 10 years older than you, Match.com probably was a little out of touch then, but I met Cindy on Match,
Yeah.
and you know what? Uh, now I know what a healthy relationship for me personally. This is me personally, but I know what a healthy relationship should look like, and I have a person that cheers me on and
Yep.
supports me. She knows when I'm going hunting that I'm going hunting, and
Yeah.
like there's days that it's funny how we can go home and say we suffered when we were hunting, like we were out there for, I mean, I say you shot an elk and you were up all night packing it or whatever, and like you put yourself through that. But you know what? It's fun. And she
Yeah.
knows that I come home with a energy that I don't have if I don't go. Like she
It's
shoos me
clarity.
out the door.
It's
Yes.
clarity,
It,
because I think a lot of us, we don't understand. There's so many things that you can unwrap, but at the end of the day, many of the things we do, if we're not careful, are for men's applause until
mm-hmm.
we realize that there's really only an audience of one.
Exactly.
You really need to do things to glorify your Father and to make sure that you're healthy and you're good. Really, nobody cares how big a bull you kill, if we're really honest. And if they do, they may just be jealous. You look at it, and once you start to get clarity on what's important and why you do it, and you can do the same thing, but when you put the emphasis on a different syllable, it changes everything.
Yes.
And now all
Yes.
of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, so all things in moderation, but if my emphasis is where it needs to on the right
Yeah.
syllable,
Yeah.
everything makes sense. And God knows the intent of the heart in all of it. And I'm not saying I've made all the right choices in all of it, but I read a book a long time ago called Wild at Heart. And in that book, he talks about there's a battle to fight, a beauty to rescue, and an adventure to live. And in that book, there was so many nuggets and so many aha moments where I went, oh, that's me. That's me. Like, it's not enough just to have a battle to fight. A battle to fight is good. And it's not just enough to have a beauty to rescue. But if your whole life is about rescuing that beauty, where's your adventure to live? And it's like, women don't understand many times how complex and yet simple we are. And when you can have that roadmap of, okay, I know what makes me tick. I know how to put things in perspective to make sure that I'm good, by not only giving to others, but also making sure that my foundation is good. My clarity is there, and that's comes through time. I know I'm not there yet. I got a long ways to go, and I try. Like you said, what a good healthy relationship looks like now. I think I do. I mean, I'm trying all the time. I'm constantly considering my wife Dawn and what's important, because I am gone a lot. I ask a lot of her, and she's an extremely healthy woman, but she still wants me, and she probably doesn't need me, but she wants me. And that's extremely sexy on so many levels, because she's a very intelligent, very strong, very capable woman, but she loves me being in her life. And so we have a great time together, and it's so much fun and so many different adventures. And we couldn't be further from the same person. I mean, I'm the outgoing, loud, and I'm very similar to you on a lot of levels, Rick. I mean, we're different, but we're the same.
Yep.
And my wife is not that at all. She's the quiet one. She's up early, getting stuff done. She has lists on lists on lists. Everything is taken care of. If I were to tell Alexa right now to put eggs on the shopping list, she would do it, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then it would go right to her phone, and all this other stuff. It's crazy all the things she has automated in our life, and I love that, and I appreciate that about her. But part of what makes that our relationship work well is considering and then trying to complete her rather than compete against her, and to celebrate her, right? Like you said, your wife celebrates you. That feels amazing.
It does.
I can do a lot of things when my wife celebrates me.
Hmm.
Um, it feels so good on so many levels, and I'm thankful to have that today.
I want to go back because it's and then I want to come back to the wife, but it is interesting, like you said, because I retired from playing softball at 40 because I finally realized that you were right. You were looking for that men's approval or satisfaction because you wanted to feel like sometimes you wanted to say, have that approval. You made a great catch or you hit a home run or something like that. But nobody's going to remember that. Nobody's going to remember that game you were spectacular in because you know what? We're playing slow pitch softball in South Dakota and nobody cares. And then that
Man,
big bull, like you said,
you're absolutely right.
I know the bulls that you have shot and you've been on the cover of magazines, but here's the deal. In the end, you go 3 or 4 years down the road and only your close friends will keep on remembering that. And like you said, the, people will knock you because you shot that because they're jealous. And I'm not jealous. If you shot a 400-inch bull, I'm going, holy smokes. But that is awesome, and I want to see it sometime instead of I'm jealous and I'm trying to go find that same. And that goes back to where we're hunting in the same area, roughly.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
you know what? If you shot that bull in that area, I'm coming over and I'm going to look at that sucker and I'm cheering you on,
Oh yeah.
that kind of thing. So that's one of the things that has helped me is like I'm not trying to find other people's approval. I am just being Rick. And I don't know if there's a synonym or an adjective that can completely explain Rick. You know what I mean? But that's who I
You are one of
am.
a kind, brother. I don't know anything quite like you, Rick. It's awesome. From the moment we first met, you have been the same through and through, and that's part of the reason I'm on this podcast right now. I have a lot of respect for you as a human being.
Well, thank you, because the one thing I hope to be is authentic, and that's where I try to stay, for sure. But
Yeah.
the wife thing, too, is also, I learned, and I know that you have this too, but I am at peace when I go do these things because I encourage, my wife's son lives up in Wasilla, Alaska, and I'm encouraging her to go up and see him as much as possible because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So go do that. And then, like, she encouraged me to go on my adventures. But the one thing that is right there in the middle of both of us is trust and
Oh,
love.
100%.
And if you can't trust that person, you shouldn't be with that person.
No.
And that is probably the foundation of our relationship is that trust. I know you're going to go up and go on your adventures, and I go on my adventures, but then we find time to go on adventures of our own, because I've taken her places that she would have never gone because that wasn't her lifestyle till she met me. I'm going to go down to Utah here where I shot my mountain goat, and you know how sometimes where you see that mountain and you're close to the top but you never made it to the top. I thought one thing I can go do is go relive my mountain goat hunt, but I can climb the top of that mountain and say I have done it, and now another check on my bucket list because I would have never been there if I wasn't mountain goat hunting. But the
Yep.
other thing, she knows that, as with most everybody, and I'm calling this the fly by the seat of your pants tour because I don't know what I'm going to do. Once we're going to climb the mountain, and what are we going to do after that? Who knows? But my buddy and I are going down to do this, but we may end up in Salt Lake. We may end up, you never know what will happen, but that's the part about adventure that we never know.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely correct. And so, and that's okay. I tend to live my life somewhere in the middle. My wife has finally come to realize she realized it fairly early on, that everything's going to be all right when I'm in control on vacation. And we are going to eat some really good food. We may meet some of my friends that I've been friends with a long time. We may not. We may do some things that will get her out of her comfort zone. But no matter what, we'll have a place to stay. We'll have everything taken care of. But I tend to keep things a little loose so that I can be flexible, because if I drop 3 or 4 texts to some people in the area and one of them comes back, "Hey, I'm free tonight. Want to grab dinner?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." And so I love being able to do that. So I do the same. And that's not my wife's style. My wife is plan it all out to the T, make sure everything is good. And and there are times when we let her ride with that. And I'm like, "All right, babe, this is on you. What do you want me to do, babe? I'm fine." So,
Exactly. Because, I'm the like, we have a 20-minute layover kind of guy sometimes, and Cindy likes maybe to slow down a little bit, but I don't mind running through an airport because it's exciting to me to get to the next flight or whatever. But there's times like you said, I let her make the decision. You can, if you want a 2-hour layover in Denver, I really don't care. That'll be fine. I'll take it easy, and it's good. But there has, because that's a little give and take. But you know, these adventures, it's funny also because, like you said, Cindy says you just know everybody everywhere. I said, and she knows that's how it is, because I'm not afraid to go talk to anybody, and it's a relationships you make in life.
100%. That's why when I'm in Colorado, I stay at Ears's place, or when I'm in Utah, sometimes I'm at Russ and Kelly's, or it's, you just never know. I've got earmarked bedrooms all over this country in people's houses that are like, "Hey, if you're ever in town, let me know."
Yeah, I said that to you too, but you never came over here. I'm just kidding.
I have never been to your town, Rick. I can honestly say that I've never been up there.
Well, you need to come sometime, just because you're always invited too, and that's the cool thing about this stuff, being friends and having those good people around you, because like you said, the Kelly Russ Hotel, the Ears Hotel, everybody, all of our friends have no problem if you said, "You know what, I'm going to be there in an hour," and most everybody would say, "Okay." And most of them would say, "If I'm not home, this is a code to the door. You just go in. We'll be home. We'll be home in a little while."
Yep, exactly.
And that is a great feeling to have. So
yeah.
Now it's also, we've had similarities in the grief parts. Like yours is with your brother, mine was with my mother, and I think also when my mom died, I was very close with my mother, and it changed my life because I knew after my divorce that I needed to keep moving and getting better, and it's one of those things that I slowly becoming more confident with myself. Well, I'll say my divorce made me more confident within myself, but the grief of my mother made me realize that life is short and we better live every day to the fullest, because you don't know when you're going to be able to say that last goodbye. So I want people to say, "Do you remember what Rick did?" in a laughing manner, instead of, I want people to know that stuff in the end. So I want to have as many memories with as many people as I can. Those things are the things that I hope is our legacy that we get to give to people. And I learned a lot from my mom's passing and within myself, and I've become very interested in being the best me, as well as knowing that life is so short. We better enjoy it, and we better have the peace that we can with whoever we are with. And like I said, like my wife and my friends, those are the people that I only care about, really. Otherwise, if I shoot I mean, if I shot a big animal and you don't like me, I don't care.
Yeah.
Because it's Jeff Helm, it's Ears, it's Kelly and Russ and Ashley and Jesse. That I mean,
Yep.
and there's more people. My friend Ben and Dylan, but these are the people that I care what they think about me.
Yeah.
I don't care about what other people think, and that has given me another perspective of life that I didn't have. I had the confidence in myself, but the grief part made me realize that there is no tomorrow. So let's keep these relationships in the best manner we can, and let's keep watering the flowers and see where they bloom.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, grief is such a funny one. One thing that I have come back to a lot, and I mentioned it to you before, but most of us have a hard shell on some way, shape, or form. I mean, there's a lot of negative people out there. There's a lot of buttholes, to be honest, that are very, very selfish. And so a lot of us have a hard shell to a certain extent until we figure out what kind of fabric your heart is made of. And then I pride myself in some levels that as soon as I really figure out what kind of fabric your heart's made out of, I open up super quick. It can be deep. More than once, I was actually on an Axis hunt a few years ago with a guy that super good friend of mine. You don't know him, but he's a super great guy. And we got back from that hunt and I got a text from him. And he just said, "Brother, I don't know if you know how much of an impact you made on me and my marriage as you dug in and iron sharpens iron and you challenged me to be a better husband because of what you lost." And man, I'll tell you what, when stuff like that happens and you're like, man, that's the real stuff right there. Because you don't know who's going through something and you don't know who is close to divorce. You don't know who's going to get cancer. You don't know what people are going through. I've had more than one friend that has committed suicide, and suicide is the big one that there's no winners. You
Yeah.
know, people that are left behind, there's just no winners because you don't have answers. And so I highly suggest that you get deep, you get vulnerable. You obviously have to be careful with that. I got pretty thick skin at this point, and I have no problem. We can talk religion, we can talk marriage, we can talk, sex, drugs, and
Yep.
rock and roll. What do you want to talk about? Because
Mm-hmm.
I think I have a pretty good world perspective on things. I don't know everything, and there's definitely some people in my life I value their take on things, and people have some wisdom out there. But man, I love talking about deep stuff, and grief did that for me. I noticed that a lot of people have empty words. And so when someone hears something like you lost your mom or you lost your brother or oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. Really? Or is that just what you're supposed to say?
Mm-hmm.
Because words don't make it better. Love does.
Mm-hmm.
When you really have a brother that loves you and he doesn't have to say a word, he can just come up and give you that hug and maybe hold just a little extra. And you're like, man, I might have needed that, because it can feel lonely when you get left behind. Forever is a long time. And the other thing I used to hate is when people go, "Oh, he's in a better place." You need to shut your trap. That means nothing to me right now. I lost my teammate that was in my freaking circle every single day. I talk to him every day. I don't care if he's in a better place right now. Don't say that. That is so insensitive on so many levels. And it's almost like people don't know what to say, or maybe they haven't gone through it before. Many times there's nothing to be said. Just be you, just be genuine. And I wouldn't have figured that out without grief. And so I wouldn't be able to help others that are going through hard things, because all of us, nobody's getting out alive. There was like Methuselah and, Elijah. There was a couple, but nobody else is getting out. I think Methuselah didn't get out alive. He was the oldest man, but Elijah did. But there's not very many that are getting out alive. And we're all going to have people close to us that are dying. And you and I are getting to the age where our classmates are dying and your cousins are dying. And you're like, what is going on here? Like, this is crazy. So having that empathy to be able to help people and being genuine, is I wouldn't have got that without grief.
No, and I agree with you there because there's, besides saying they're in a better place. I mean, my mom was cremated, but here's the other thing that bothers me is they look better now. Well, they're in their damn coffin, and they do not look better because there's no color.
Yeah,
I'm not a big open casket person, but that's besides the point. But they don't look
yeah,
better. They're not alive. They don't look better,
yeah. No,
and that pisses me off more than
yeah,
anything, in that aspect because, and and it just, everybody needs to look at everybody's in different manners, and like you said, like my close friends, if I would, I truly, if you don't know what to say, then don't say it. And my close friends, I know what to say because we know who would know their personalities. But it's those things that, you know what? Here's my. I've done a couple other episodes, but it's like, don't don't try to tell me how the person was because I know who they were. Just tell me, you know what, that we're going to be, you're going to be all right, and we're going to work through this, and if you need anything, let me know.
yeah.
Kind of thing. Uh, it, it, go ahead.
I find myself just many times saying, "Hey, I know words don't make it better. I just want you to know that I'm gonna miss their laugh, and if you need anything, I love you. Feel free to call." Just some people, it helps just to know someone's actually considered what they're going through and that they've been there too. You don't have to go on or
No.
whatever. Just a lot of times we just need to stand shoulder to shoulder and know we got somebody to lean on.
Yes, and in fact, when you say somebody Leon, I had a friend stop by. It been 2 Sundays ago now, out of the blue, and you do know who he is, but I'm not going to say his name on this episode. But and we had, he said you're going to be around. I said yeah, and we'll make sure we're around. And he got here about 3 in the afternoon and left at 9, and he just needed to talk. And you know what that it makes me feel good that you're trusted enough to be talked to.
Yeah.
But what he was going through, he needed to vent, and you
Sure.
aren't going to believe. I'm not trying to. I usually am the talker, and I didn't say a word. I just was there to listen. But when you're there to listen, and people trust you to listen, then that's means you're making an impact in this world too. And I tell everybody, I'm a phone call away, and
Yep.
if I don't hear it, I'm going to answer it. I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Yep.
But those are the impacts that you make when you in this life, and those are the people that you need to surround yourself with that are going to be there to listen when you need it.
A long time ago, I heard people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Exactly.
And that resonates. Right.
It does. And because life is so short, and I just look at suicide, and you were talking about suicide earlier, and I've had friends commit suicide too, and I'm thinking, you see some of my posts, and I'm climbing a mountain, or I'm trying to get closer to God because that's where I am. But most of my best conversations with people are in the woods because there are no four walls, and there is no judgment. There's curiosity, and there's talk. And I hope that, this is like Don't Die Rusty in some situations where, yeah, I want to keep, I don't want to rust out. I want to wear out, and that's the way it is. But I want people to be able to talk because this is where we become better people. So we're to keep on lubricating the whole system, not just our bodies too, and we can talk about it. So if our conversation starts another conversation that needs to be started, and they say, "Did you hear Rick and Jeff talking the other day? And did you hear what they were talking about?" And you're on a hike, then people get quiet, they think about it, and then you
Yep.
stop, and then they start, well, that's an interesting thought there. And how many times have you sat down on a log or sat in dirt and talked for longer than you thought you were going to, because it meant something to you. And if you can make an impact on anybody that you're hiking with or with at all, that's what this whole world is about being better, I think.
You bet. You bet. And if we're not careful, we get lost in being successful in these hunts and different things. That particular friend I was talking about, he's come over 3 or 4 years hunting axis with me on a place, a really good place, but it's all bow hunting, and he hasn't killed a buck yet. He's come close. He's had some misses. He's had a lot of stuff happen, but those conversations that we've had, sitting up against a tree midday, waiting for deer to start move, waiting for the roars to happen, and how's your wife? How's your kids? How you doing loving on your wife? How's this? How's that? And all of a sudden, things just start to happen, and good stuff happens when you're willing, and you got to care, right? You have to care about people.
Oh yeah.
And it's so awesome to give, and so much better to give than receive. And I think I read that in a book somewhere, Rick.
Yep. It is. It fills my heart to give, and that's why I try never, unless I'm really need something from somebody, I never want to ask anybody for anything, because I'm not asking for things, but it is so nice to give. It's so nice because, and it's not that I'm trying to make myself look good. It's that it feels good to give somebody something when they aren't asking for it, because good people give good energy, and good energy keeps on moving. If you're with people with bad energy, it's going to be bad. You're going to, you're negative people, then you start knocking people. When you're with positive people, you start talking positive, and that's the way it is.
Yeah. No
you
doubt.
know? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just, I was looking so forward to talking to you about this, because Tommy and Dara, don't you?
I
Tommy
don't
and
know if
Dara
I do.
Parker. Like at TACs, they do the Warrior Rising.
Oh yeah. I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it was interesting, because when everybody looks at Tommy and he's been blowing up in Afghanistan, and they think that's a story. But I got talking to Dara, and I said, "How did you guys meet?" And I said, "You know what? That's a story." And then I did an episode with them, and it's kind of like you. It's like, I wish we would have been in the woods and had the smoke rolling around us and
Yeah.
the fire, and to be able to talk like this. But I wanted to do this episode with you. I mean, we could do we'll do another episode again sometime, but I thought, everybody talks to Jeff about elk hunting, and you and I have had other conversations, and I said, I want to talk about Jeff. I want to talk about life, and I want to talk about living the best life we can. And that's the
Yeah.
story I want Jeff to tell.
Well, I am doing all that. I'm a glass half full kind of guy, Rick, and I try and be a force for good everywhere I go. And some days are harder than others, But every day that I wake up, every day that I have a chance, is a day to be a force for good, and I know you do the same. So it's
Definitely.
good. I can't complain. He's opened more doors for me than I could ever open for myself.
And you know what? That's the other thing I think that brings, when we were talking about grief, or even divorce is grief too, but
It is.
it brought God back into my life. And when you start feeling and believing, for me, like you were talking earlier, I'm playing softball, and I'm still playing well and making great plays, and I'm shooting a 200-inch whitetail, and I'm a stud, and everything's going well, and then all of a sudden, boop, the bottom drops out. And until you realize that you need to pray during the good times as well as the bad times, then you that's helped me out more than anything, is that God is in my life every day, not just on the good days, not just on the bad days, but every day.
It's easy to talk to him when things aren't going well.
Yeah.
It's hard to talk to him when things seem to all go your way and everything seems great. And, I think that's true of all of us. Having kids is one of those things that you realize you're not in control. There's nothing like when your kids are sick or as they get older and you're like that guy on the side watching them in the sailboat going, no, the rocks, no, over there. Man, God, this has to be what it's like when you're up there watching me make mistakes. And it's so difficult because I know that you love me, but man, I still have free will and I still make bad choices. And so it's so true. It's we need these trials and things to help us know that we're not really in control.
Yep.
And we have to just choose to be better and not bitter when things happen and when things don't go our way. And there's still a lot to be thankful for.
And what's under this cap is because that's why the top of my head's bald, because I scratched all this stuff off my head saying, why the heck did you do that?
Why'd you have to take my best friend to 35? Why
Yeah.
did you have to, make this all fall apart? Why couldn't I still own my business? Like, there's so many things that I've asked why over the years.
Yeah.
And you just go, okay, well, and that's okay. And eventually when your perspective's right, you have peace that passes all understanding. And, and you go for a walk and you leave your phone at home and you just talk to him. You talk to your wife, you talk to the people around you, you talk to him. It's a scary place to be in your head all by yourself. Yep. And, most people can't do it. So they have to get on this dang thing, and they have to take and just dumb themselves down on so many things, that super smart computer that sits in our pocket all the time. You can't hear the still small voice when, you're just scrolling through Instagram reels or Facebook or whatever. You've got to have some time where it's just you and him. That happens when you're outside, and it happens when you're shooting your bow, all those kind of things. I call that group therapy. When you're shooting your bow, you can't think about, did you pay the insurance, or did this bill go up, or, why didn't this work out? You just have that group therapy. It just clears your mind and you get done, and allows you to think about other things like, how's my daughter doing? I should probably give her a call.
Yep.
How's my son? I wonder how that deal went. Did that go through or not? Like, sometimes it's a text or a FaceTime or a call. As you get older, your kids still need you. They just need you at a different level. You have to grab a different gear, and your daughters will always appreciate daddy. And so it's been hard for me to, at times, grab a different gear. I like to be the dad that takes his 8-year-old for ice cream,
Well, I would go with you with ice cream any day.
Yeah, right, Rick. That's good. Oh, yeah. I'm with you. But
I agree with you there, because here's one thing I did too with my mom before she died too, is I talked to her every morning. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 2 minutes, it could be 20 minutes. But
Yep.
you know what? Because there's no rewind in life. And if you do not keep on, there's memories, but there's no rewind. I can't go back and say, I wish I would have talked to her more. You need to do it now. When you think that you need to text that person, you need to text them, because my biggest regret in life for me at this point is I was elk hunting with my neighbors. His nieces had 2 cow tags in the Black Hills, and when my mom, I usually would, like when I'm hunting on weekends, I would wait till Monday when I got back and would call my mom, and I was thinking we're going to have a great conversation. Even though we were cow hunting, the bulls were bugling, but they were young, and the girls were young, and we didn't get on them. But I'm going to say about this adventure I had, and something on like Saturday night said, you should call your mom, and I kept on saying, no, I'll wait till Monday, and I called Monday, and my dad, she went to the hospital, and my sister said, you need to get here now, and she died that night. And I didn't have that conversation, and that's I hit myself for that for a long, long time. And then I said, it's a culmination of all the conversations you had. So have those conversations before in case something happens.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the biggest blessings that I felt for me, because my brother had cancer and he fought it for 4 years. And that was 4 years for me to be intentional.
Mm-hmm.
That was 4 years for me to text him or call him every day. And I have no regrets when it comes to that.
There you go.
I was the best dang brother I could be. I went to Africa for a month with him, and we hunted and we fished the Indian Ocean and we did all kinds of stuff, and it was incredible. So
that's what we need to do to make those memories. Have the culmination of these conversations are the best. One last question I always ask before we end this is, and what's the good life to Jeff Helm?
What's the good life? That's a great question. What is the good life? Man, that's such a complicated but simple thing. Yes. At the end of the day, I built this house myself, right? Mm-hmm. And it's nothing special. It's a barn. It's a barn-do. But I built it myself. I did everything but the drywall and the AC. And as I built this house, I played Shane and Shane. They had a bunch of hymns. There's an album that's nothing but psalms, basically. And as I prayed over this house and I built this house, I said, God, make this a house of love. Make this a house that people walk in and there's peace that passes all understanding. For me, the good life is a life filled with love.
I love hearing that. So, well, that's a good way to end this conversation, and because I think most people need a house filled with love.
Yep, agreed. Love you, bro. Appreciate you.
Love you too. So thank you so much for having the conversation and taking the time out to do this with me.
You bet. Have a great night, brother.
You too. So anyway, don't die, Rusty Nation. Keep chasing your dreams, being the best you, and don't die, Rusty.
Thank you for listening to the Don't Die Rusty podcast with your hosts, Rick Hansen and Ricky Bruley. The Don't Die Rusty podcast is written and produced by Rick Hansen and Ricky Bruley. You can find us on Instagram and on Facebook at Don't Die Rusty. You can rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You might find your review read on a future episode. Got a question for the Ricks? Send us an email at don'tdierusty@gmail.com. It too could be featured on a future episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Don't Die Rusty podcast wherever fine podcasts are downloaded.